system.
So they wouldn't surrender, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
well, I don't know. They probably got tired of it and surrendered.
But the SS wouldn't.
No, well, they get civil to piss out. I'm going to retire. I had enough of it. Excuse me.
Okay, where were we? They were under the assumption that when they surrendered, they would get good food, but they only got a half a cup of water and K rations.
Yeah, and they're looking for a stockade now.
Yeah.
They'll be prisoner of war the rest of their life.
Yeah. No
So
sooner.
they got released.
No sooner had we revealed the information than the German mortar and artillery fire began coming into our area, followed by the screaming German infantry. What do you mean by the screaming German infantry?
Well, they get them drunk the night before. They say go get the Super Americans.
And they'll be yelling gun ho as they're coming after you. I'll be damned. We quickly swung the gun around and began firing at the oncoming hordes. They had to cover the deep, wet snow in the open field, which gave us time to set up our targets. Under the Strength Rifle Company formed an offensive line with their 61 millimeter mortars and the light machine guns opened on the advancing infantry. Well, you said the advancing infantry, which was the Germans, about how many German infantry were coming towards you?
It could vary. It could be a patrol.
At this particular time, about how many?
I would say probably a squad.
A squad?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to
They were just on a
understand that.
patrol.
So a full squad was coming after you. They had to cover the deep in snow in the open field. The Germans fell back to the woods and the counterattack was repulsed. A call went out to the fighter group to disperse them even further. It was not long before the P-38 Lightnings were overhead and spotted our markers, hurling out of the sky their machine guns, cannons, blazing away at the fleeing Germans, catching many of them in the woods and in the next clearing ahead. Although we took many prisoners, it always seemed that the Germans had an inexhaustible supply of men to send against us, and the advantage always lay with them. In reality, the German forces were makeshift at best, and it was the forest and the snow that was their best defense. The Germans were free to roam all about, using the dense trees for their cover and concealment. We were screened for a battalion coming through us. They would take up a pursuit of Germans in the next village and beyond. I was exhausted up to our waist at times, soaking wet, and 0 temperatures for over 2 weeks. We had not had a hot meal in 2 weeks, and much less a nourishing morsel outside of K rations. We understood these were not normal times, and if anything is even normal in combat, and considered ourselves lucky to still be alive, I was too exhausted, physically as well as mentally, to try it out now. All I really knew for sure was that I could not take another step, much less wade to another snow-covered forest. The sun was up, and I laid back, stretched full out, absorbing in the warm rays. I fell soundly asleep. I did not know for how long I was asleep, but the next thing I could recall was someone desperately shaking me to wake me. As I looked up, I could see the gold eagle on a steel helmet and a smile on the person's face. Wake up, son," he said. I found out it was Lieutenant Colonel Walter Richardson of the 3rd Army Division. He helped me up and softly explained to our present position. He said that we should be relieved shortly and we're trying to get some hot chow and dry clothes to us. He also stated that we were doing a good job and would soon be all over with. We could get on with our lives. He looked up as he left our squad, smiled once again, and jumped back into his Jeep. The driver whisked him away. I found out that we were in Manhay, and somewhere in the confusion of the last 2 weeks, we became separated from the 18th Airborne Corps and had drifted to the 7th Corps sector. The boundary between the two corps was a highway that ran north and south. Still blinking?
Yep.
Yeah.
True to his word, hot chow was brought up in maritime containers, and we enjoyed it our first hot meal in weeks. After getting our fill with plenty of hot coffee, things did not look so dark and dismal. We posted guard along with a rifleman from 7th Corps around the village. For the first time since we arrived in the theater, we slept in a warm room with a roaring fire in the fireplace. The next morning, after many hotcakes and much coffee, we prepared to move out. We got several boxes of ammo for the gun and a small arms ammunition that was available from the last airdrop.
Ask him how many hotcakes he had.
How many hotcakes did you have at the most? At your biggest breakfast, how many hotcakes did you have?
We didn't carry hostages, they dropped them off.
No, I mean at one breakfast you said you had a large number of hotcakes.
Pancakes.
Hostages?
You said at one breakfast, I don't know where it was, but you said that you had a large number of pancakes.
Pancakes?
Yeah, or
Oh, 27 pancakes, yeah. Yeah, 27 pancakes.
How the hell could one man eat
Well, I
27?
hadn't eaten in a week.
Were you sick?
I had K-rashes, that's all.
Were you sick after that?
No.
How many pancakes did the other
Well,
soldiers?
pancakes were that big. They were that big. They had little frying pans, they put the batter in there.
Okay.
Cook it up.
27 pancakes.
Yeah.
My God.
Well, I wasn't alone, they were all gobbling up. The cook couldn't make it fast enough.
Did you have decent syrup?
Huh?
Did you have decent syrup?
Decent chefs?
Syrup. Did you have
Syrup?
good syrup for the pancakes?
Cooks might have something in the kitchen.
Were they all
By then, it's probably gone.
good cooks?
Pardon?
Were they all good cooks? Were they good cooks in the military?
Got cooks?
Yeah, were they good?
They were damn good cooks, yeah,
Good cooks.
yeah. Now, who the hell was that?
Someone said hi to you down there.
Those two?
Someone said hello, John. We changed our status so often we really didn't know where we belonged or the command structure was. I was told to attach ourselves to this outfit or that the brigade would do so. A full understanding that it was a part of our job. We did it willingly with enthusiasm and to the best of our ability. I did not have the slightest idea where Post was or if he was well. I found an aid station and someone looked up at Lape sand, and I was told they were not to hear that, and stated once again that we're tender and sore. I gave Lester the receiver, and Lape agreed to carry several ammo boxes. We're moving up to the roadblock on Bastone League Highway at Belle Hay, 4 miles to the south. We could hear the P-47 Thunderbirds buzzing about, and we're told the 2nd Panzer armored cars were trying to break through the deep cut in the road. The woods were so thick on both sides of the road that the Germans were forced to use the road. The P-47s were aware of the heavy concentration of German armor getting to smash through the series.
P-47s had armor-piercing rounds on, 30 caliber.
P-47s were very powerful.
50 rounds in the belt.
Wow. P-47s were aware of the heavy concentration of German armor getting ready to smash through the series of roadblocks were set up to stop them. We later panels, bright orange and rose identification panels to our immediate front, establishing our position in relation to the enemy. We then hunkered down in the bunkers from the tanks and our own P-47s. The fighters were known to fight short of their target and hit friendly troops. In a matter of minutes, P-47s were swooping down on their prey with their bombs finding their targets. The bullets from the machine guns beat a chant of death and shrapnel the infantry scattering about. They appeared to...
They shoot shells that burst out a ball of flame.
That's a P-47?
Yeah.
And they come from a jet, right?
Huh?
They come from a plane, right? Where does a P-47 originate from?
From England, probably England or base
But
up.
Did he get shot from... Okay. The cannon fire beating a path on the snow-colored ground before them. Others came in on their targets in gliding dives, and we could see single bombs dropping towards their targets. A single plane headed in a bomb run, its missile found its mark, a cluster of Mark IVs beating a path into the woods nearby. Suddenly, it was over. The planes climbed high in the sky and soared off to the rear. The others made a final strafing run and drone off into the distance to join their comrades. The area before us was black with smoke from the burning German armor. The 2nd SS Panzer Division had suffered a major setback, with most in the armor destroyed and their infantry cut down. The regiment of infantry was sent in after the P-47s had done their job. We were part of that regiment set to capture or destroy the remaining enemy. From the line of departure within the forest, the attacking regiment was spread out in a company abreast. We were with a rifle platoon on the right line and watched the lead scouts advance from the burning tanks some 25 yards to our front. The rifle platoons were going through. Okay, bye, Claire.
Who's that?
Take care, Claire.
All right, good night.
Good night, Claire.
Good night.
Careful the wires now, careful the wires. Tell her good night, Claire.
Good night, Claire.
All right, good night.
All right, good night, Claire. Take care. The rifle platoons were going through as
Hi.
they advanced, and we were followed closely
Hey, girl.
behind.
Good night.
Hello,
Night.
hi.
Got her
Suddenly
all
there was
worked
a
up.
mortar.
Got her all worked up.
Huh? Suddenly there was a mortar barrage coming from the village past the clearing. Our scouts were in the village now and were presumably trying to locate the enemy mortars and radio their position back to the CP. Some of the fire platoons were caught in the open and rushed a little further back, scurried into the woods once again.
Now, what's he worried about?
I don't know, it's all right. We wondered where the Germans found the inexhaustible supply of ammunition. A shell landed nearby, which jarred Lape and me, and Lape was all for getting out of the area. I stated quick that we were staying put no matter what. I did not want to leave the riflemen stranded alone in the open without some help or hope of being rescued or aided out of their predicament. The mortars were bracketing in our position because we were not dug in. The situation became precarious and uncertain. We were vulnerable. Mortar shells were landing all around us. As we hugged the frozen ground, we hoped and prayed that the scouts had found their positions. The barrage lasted for all 10 minutes, but it seemed longer than that. I looked out and to check on the squad as I crawled from person to person. I discovered that Lester had gotten hit with shrapnel and was dead. Two of his replacements were badly torn up, and the medic circulating among the wounded and the dead came upon the two replacements. After taking a look at their condition, he shook his head and gave each of them a morphine injection. The case, there eased the moments, and with about this tour of the wounded and the dead, I went back to Lester's body, removed one of his dog tags, and thrust it into my field jacket. I stood there looking at what remained of him, thinking of many times I had stopped. Many times, thinking of him many times. I depended on him, and he never let me down. He was a good soldier, and I miss him greatly. I also received the dog tags of two replacements. I barely knew their names, but someone somewhere would miss them terribly. I felt the pang of sour at their thought of not knowing them more personally and not showing them a giving nature. There was always more critical in nature, and there was no room for personal contact. We did not have the luxury of developing friendships, and there was no one left in the squad but Lape and me, and of course there was Post. A lieutenant came by and told us stand fast. A platoon of Shermans were entering the villages from the east to see if they could rid of the mortars. We heard the rumbling and squeaking of the We heard the rumbling and squeaking of their threads as they labored through the snow towards the village. I wondered where the scouts in the village were, and I probably would have never knew. Soon there was a sharp, resonant sound of the 75s on the Shermans, and they had found the mortars. A few minutes later, the riflemen started to move from the clearing towards the village. This time, Lape and I made it into the village with gun belts of ammo hanging from our necks. We were told to be alert for snipers at the windows of the houses and not to do so too much moving about. The Shermans still cruising the narrow streets, looking for snipers and firing their 75s directly at the windows when they spotted one. The riflemen spread throughout the town. Lape and I sat the gun down and waited for further orders. I felt I had to tell someone that our squad was completely wiped out and there were only two of us left. Among the confusion and moving about, I thought it's best to sit tight and take it easy for the time being. It appeared that the Germans had pulled out after the mortar barrage, leaving only snipers to keep off balance. We were told to set up a roadblock on the main road leading to the village.
What was that all about?
That's Claire's daughter.
Huh?
Is that still now for a minute?
What was that all